So against USC Upton, Long Beach State, and UC San Diego, the Fresno State basketball team went 1-2. I talked about in another video how if they lost more than one conference game outside Arkansas, that would not be a good sign in my mind. That would be a failure, and it is a failure. I'm not going to go into USC Upside. If you're a Fresno State fan, you know about that. You were up 11 to a team you should have blown out. Somehow you lost it. Inexcusable, unacceptable. What is there more to say about that at this point? They rebounded a bit against Long Beach State, but to me, the only thing we really got out of that game was that DJ Stickman has to be a great player for this team to have any chance to do anything. He has to be a Mountain West Freshman of the Year type player. And my mind for Vance Wahlberg to keep the job, have any chance of it. I think that he is somebody that knows that he has to have a year I think above 500 year. I don't think a 500 year would really do much to make Classy want to keep him. All right. And he did not help his cause this last game against UC San Diego, a team that is Mountain West caliber. You'll face a team like that multiple times in the league, and you lost by 5 in a game that was very similar to what we've seen in the past decade. You know, you're in a hole, you make a rally to try and win, you may get the lead for a little bit, but then you ultimately fall short. We saw plenty of that last year. We saw plenty of that of the Justin Hudson. It's a very similar game to what we've seen this past decade. And Wahlberg, in the post-game interview with Leffler and Coach Q, sound like a man who knows that he can't lose these type of games and stay after this season. It wasn't just a sign of a competitive man. It was a man who knows that he's got an AD who has a mind to replace him. All right, we saw what Classy did with women's basketball. He more or less forced out Jamie White, long-time women's basketball coach, because she was not doing anything. Replaced him with Ryan McCarthy, and so far that's been a great hire. You know, Classy wants to make that kind of impact in basketball as well. Right? He did not hire Wahlberg. That was more or less kind of forced on him by the president, and he only did that because of how late the process was and how much the close community was making promises and badgering him and so forth. And so far this season, I've not seen anything that shows that this year's going to be any better. I really don't. I don't see it. All right, but we'll see what happens. Maybe they can start a turnaround against Utah State this Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Yes, it will be at 7 o'clock, same time as the football game, at home against Utah Valley. But maybe the weather will help change people's minds, or maybe an empty St. Martin Center might help the Bulldogs in some way. I mean, we've seen plenty of times the Bulldogs go the road in football where having only a few people in the stands outside the vendors and people who work at the stadium works against them. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really hopeful. I think we just got to have to just try and make it through this season and start anew. But on positive news, at last we finally get more news on the Pac-12 media deals, right? And they signed a deal with USA Network, USA Sports, exactly. That's the channel that has Law and Order all day long with some Psych and Monk thrown in there. All right, so what do we get from this deal? Well, we get 22 regular season football games each season on the USA Network, 50 regular season men's basketball games each year, and 5 to 10 regular season women's basketball teams. All right, so they get all the Pac-12 men's basketball tournament games until the championship game, which will be on CBS. We really don't know what the deal is in terms of money. They're going to try and heat that out. They're going to keep that in there. But now the Pac has 3 immediate partners. They have CW, CBS, and USA Today. All right, so what does this mean? Well, one thing they wanted was exposure for football. And the new Pac were able to do that. Just about everybody gets CW or CBS on their over-the-air station, even if you have rabbit ears. USA Network is also something that if you have a basic cable package or satellite or any kind of streaming, basically if you just have it at all, you will have USA more than likely. So in fact, this is available to just about 100% of USA television households, or the vast majority of them. For men's basketball, very similar. You have overwhelmingly across the board. For all sports, you have coverages right here. I think it also says a lot about. I gotta admit, I thought that they had some sort of deal with ESPN just because of how much vacant space ESPN has. We've seen in the last couple of years, and the Pac got better deals and matchups in the Mountain West. No disrespect to UTEP at San Jose State, but you'd think the networks would want to keep the better late night conference and try and keep the St. Mary's and Gonzaga matchups going. Who knows? St. Mary's still might join in the future, but at least for this year, it ain't happening. Pac-12 Enterprises is going to produce 150 plus of these new stuff, so we'll already see how much of a benefit this is going to be. Another thing that you'll like if you're a fan is that kickoff times will be known in advance, like on CBS Sports Network, which is very convenient. I do not like how you have to wait 12 games or so at least, at most, whatever you want to say, when you have to go on Fox or ESPN. Now you know what you're going to get. There are some drawbacks to this. This is going to be a learning curve like on CW. And there's no Fox or ESPN to really hype you up. I understand there are a lot of people who are happy to down either one because on the back burner. But if you had ESPN broadcasting your games and conferences in some form or fashion, they will hype you up in some way. All right? Now you can say the AAC is getting a bunch of extra coverage for ESPN, not getting a bunch of it and so forth. That's really what it's not about. You want them to hype you up for the playoff committee. And to be fair, the AAC has done better this year than any other league. So who knows? Maybe it doesn't really matter. But bottom line is that this, it's good that you get this done. It's good to know how you'll finally get this meme over of 2 weeks and so forth. You got it done. You know who your preferred media partnership is. Probably about as good as you could hope for if you're the Pac. I'm sure they'll add more teams in the future, but right now you got your free media partners you needed. You cover your football, you cover your basketball. You can go from there, and this is a positive step, no question about that. And we're getting closer and closer. A year from now, we'll be right in the heart of the Pac-12 season. So I think we'll see more news as it comes along. But for now, we'll just be thankful we have this done, and I'll cover the Wyoming game a little bit later, but for now, go Dogs.